Now, you may be wondering how I got here, or you have played Factorio before, but I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that. Some things were happening, I was grooving through space, then kablamo! I'm in a volcanic hellscape surrounded by shards of my space vessel. But no need to fret about that, because, well, that does not look fixable. So I just get rid of it, so people don't think I'm incompetent or something. And now, as a very, very intelligent engineer, what is the ideal strategy to escape this place? Make smoke signals? Nah, I can't even make a fire, and the world scanner says there is currently no intelligent life on this planet. Wait a minute. Well, maybe I just live in peace with nature until my inevitable demise? Nah, that's cringe. I saw a factory one time. I'll just make one of those to make a new ship. Yeah, that's the rational thing to do. Before we get started though on this Factorio exploration, I do have a couple mods active that I will disclose real quick. I have some mostly basic quality of life mods, so I have Helmod installed to help me make properly sized builds without having to do too much math. I have text plates so I can label things, and the last one that some might not like, infinite resources. Now, before you run away, basically it just stops material patches from running out of ore, and I mostly have this on because I find it much more fun to have to make new outposts to accommodate new builds, instead of just needing a new mine every few hours because one is running dry, since I will be making this base much bigger later on. I would rather spend my time on the factory instead of dozens of outposts that will inevitably run out of ore. You can check the description for a full mod list, but for now, let's get back to my dreams of a grand factory. So, with my new goal in mind, I go to the nearby lake and gently scoop some fish from the water with my bare hands and start slamming some rocks to get some stone and coal that will probably be useful. Before committing to the factory, I got to meet with the locals to see if they will give a space boat, but they seem to go missing soon after my arrival. Strange. Now confident that the factory is my only option, I take the burner mining drill and furnace from my ship and fuel it with some of the coal I found by the lake to make some iron plates. They are not in and of themselves impressive, but I can use them to make more drills, and more drills means more materials, and more materials means more drill, and more drill means more materials, and that's how I will construct my factory. I use my first two extra drills to mine from a coal patch nearby, pointing them into each other so they will keep each other fueled until I decide to get rid of them. I then go and visit some of my neighbors again, but their beetle-like existence makes me distressed, so I punch them to show my disapproval. And they don't take too kindly to that for some reason, but I might need more gun. I run home, make my iron plates into more bullets, and then return to shoot the bugs and worms. I also snatched some more fish from the water for my sustenance. And before too long, I am down a couple of neighbors. However, then their neighbors hear the commotion, so I negotiate peacefully to calm them down. And they also decide to leave peacefully. Yeah, we'll go with that. During diplomatic events, I remember to turn my hearing on. Yeah, I know. I'll wait for applause. Thank you, thank you. Anyway, neighbors are temporary. The factory is forever. So I quickly expand my mining, adding 5 more drills to iron, 2 to coal, and also adding 2 drills to copper, that I also smelt into plates. Unfortunately, with my tiny brain, this is most of what I can do. So I start looking into ways to expand my brain. Soon, I recall that boiling water is overpowered. So I make a pump that I place in that lake that I was getting stones by, and I also make a boiler as well as a pair of steam engines. Using this set of items and an overextended pipe, I set up some basic electricity production. Using coal to activate the boilers is at this point pretty much my only option, because pretty much the only other burnable thing I have is wood, and that can't be automated and is therefore just the worst thing ever. Now, despite how fun it would be, I can't just plug my brain into the electricity to make it bigger. Instead, I need labs and science. With these 2 items, I can research a bunch of useful items and buildings. After handcrafting a lab and 10 red science, I research automation. The best research in the game. It allows me to make these assembling machines, and as the name implies, they help you assemble things. See, I've been handcrafting everything so far, but these assembling machines are like new sets of hands that can put these things together for you. So in common terms, it's like a funny box that you throw all the pieces of your IKEA furniture into, and it spills out the chair that you thought you needed, even though you have a perfectly good floor. Anyway, the first thing I automate is red science, making this hand-fed machine to help me research some of the basics. But with that and the radar I slapped down to scan the area, I need to make sure the boiler never runs out of fuel. So I run a conveyor belt to it from the coal, and slap down my first electric miner. Electric miners are like these burner miners I have been using, but better in every way. The only fuel they need is electricity from these power poles, and they mine faster and over a larger area. And with just a few inserters and a chest, the boiler should never run out of coal. After waiting around a while, the crap red science build finishes logistics research, giving me access to underground belts and splitter belts. Both of these are going to be very important moving on. I instantly make use of the underground belts as I set up my new iron mine, using underground belts to run under the power poles so I can make this super compact miner setup. This runs straight down to this furnace stack, a fancy term for a bunch of furnaces in a row. This one should be able to keep a yellow belt completely full of iron plates. Each of the belts down the middle hold iron ore and coal respectively, and are nabbed by the inserters into the furnaces to process into our plates. I make some more drills, throwing down with some of my neighbors again while I craft them by hand, and when I return home I use those drills to expand coal production, as now it is being used in 2 places, so I'm going to need more to keep everything satisfied. And this is good, because I quickly realized that I need to expand my power production, meaning I need more coal than I was making just to keep the power going. So I slap down some more boilers and steam engines, and boom, better power. I blueprint my iron furnace stack, placing it down next to it to show where my copper will be smelted, and while I can see this furnace stack, it isn't real, since I still need to craft all of the furnaces, belts, and inserters. But of course, you can see that hand crafting queue, and so as is becoming tradition, I find an innocent family of bugs and throw hands with them while I craft the items. I quickly return home to make the copper furnace stack, as well as some copper mines to fuel it. This is set up almost identically to the iron mines and furnaces, just for copper plates instead. I take a small detour to this stone patch, making a crappy wall factory so that I can make some basic defenses, and despite having a lot of automatic iron and access to assembling machines, I still continue to handcraft buildings. This time, with the new gun turret research, I place the new gun turrets around the base to ward off any wandering bugs that get a little too close. But with all that defense set up, I need more science. The crap machine has long since become obsolete. It made like 6 science a minute, and it was just overall not very useful. The only other thing it researched that I haven't brought up is fast inserters. They're like yellow inserters, but fast. And so, with that crap science build removed, I decide that I'll make an 120 science a minute build. Even though this is very early game and only big researches take even 100, but since it's red science it should be fine. See, each assembling machine makes about 6 science packs a minute, so 10 would make 60, and so I only need 20 machines to make my goal of 120. Plus, red science is very, very simple. I didn't really explain it before, but I guess I can now, since I'm making my actual build and all. See, to make red science packs, all you need is a copper sheet and an iron gear, and the iron gear is just made of 2 iron plates. With the speed that the items are crafted, 1 gear assembling machine can provide gears for 10 red science assemblers. So in total for the 20 red science assemblers, all I need is 2 gear assemblers. And so, just keeping the center belt split with copper plates and the gears, I can make my 120 red science and pump it into these labs that I handcrafted. So with all that, I sit by and run through all the red science that is remaining. Though since this is the first science, there isn't actually a ton left to go through, making my build of 120 science per minute, or SPM, even more overbuilt. I research steel processing, which allows me to turn iron into steel, optics that gives me lamp, military that gives me better gun, steel text plates gives me steel letters, heavy armor for defense, and steel axe for faster hand mining. And lastly, bullet damage and speed for bullet damage and speed, respectively. But in little time, all of the red science has been researched. However, to escape this hellscape, I will need many more sciences, and so I select the next tier of science, green science. So far, my factory is small, my neighbors are mostly neutral, and everything is simple. However, over time, all of this will change. However, for now, this is where I will leave off. Next episode, I will build green science. But with where we are now, I have confidence that I can make this factory great, and potentially over extravagant. And leave this big rock and return to space.